Hello and welcome to our first review of um, Long Island Melee draft. This is a battle between Jpeg and Avium that happened last night on July 23rd. And I assume by now that most of you have already seen this, but this is the game that we will be going over, and I will go through and I will talk about it. However, I first want to mention. Oh, let me back up. This is not going to be just a replay, just like an analysis of the replay. This is going to be me going back and going over their drafts, what they could have done, and sort of like resetting the whole mindset. Because I imagine all of you have already seen this video and this replay. I want to talk about how you should be building for the matchup, how you should be playing the matchup, and what you think the moves that you should be clicking should be at any given point in time. And so to start this, I think we really need to go back and we need to look at the matchup first. Now, the matchup is right here. It is Avium versus Joey. Avium drafted a Roaring Moon, a Goldango Witch Cantera, a Gliscor that Cantera, a Raging Bolt, a Torkoal, a Hisuian Typhlosion, a Venusaur, and a Ribombee. And Joey, on his side, drafted an Iron Bundle, a Landorus Incarnate, a Pelipper, a Fortress, Jirachi, a Barraskewda that Cantera, Hisuian Sliggoo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and then a Latias that Cantera. Now, instantly, the first thing that you should notice, again, very bare bones, very simple, very easy to understand, is that this is a matchup of rain versus sun. So let's start with Avium and let's run through the advantages that this team has going into this match. Now, first thing that you want to know is that during a weather war, it's really complicated. Traditionally, in the past 8 gens, well, I guess it wasn't 8 gens, it was gens 3 through 8, rain has always prevailed over sun. It doesn't matter if it is Gen 3, where there was no rain setter, or Gen 5, where sun was actually banned. That was due to a few sun abusers, not because sun is good. Sun is actually still bad in that tier. And then Gen 8, or Gen 6 and beyond, I should say, where rain is no longer permanent and is instead lasts 4 turns, maximum of 6 with their respective rocks. So going into this, well, why does Sun have a losing matchup? And I think what's most important to note here is the setters. So if you plop Torkoal and Pelipper like into Gen 3, and they can both like set weather, I think it becomes a lot less clear who would become the better weather setter. However, Gen 6 and beyond, Pelipper started to get a lot of buffs to it that I think greatly enhance its ability to perform well in rain. And one of those biggest boons is, well, I think I would say that there's 3 big reasons why Pelipper is better than Torkoal. Reason number 1. Is Pelipper slower? That was going to be... I don't think Pelipper is 65, Torkoal is 20. Okay. So the one big positive that Torkoal has is that if you send out Torkoal and Pelipper at the same time, the slower Mon sets the weather, Torkoal wins that, which is very important and very big. However, there are 3 things that Pelipper gets that Torkoal does not. And the first one is U-turn. U-turn is so important to be able to switch into your threats, and make yourself like known and the presence of the rain abusers more apparent. Sun has a very hard time switching in the proper threats, and even though we live in a Gen 9 metagame with photosynthesis and chlorophyll and those abusers, um, there's nothing on Torkoal that'll allow it to switch out. Granted, you can run like eject pack and eject button, but those will only give you the 4 turns of sun, and we want the heat rock giving you all 8 turns of 8 turns of sun. And it also doesn't even get baton pass. I looked that up earlier. It does not get that. It is just like actually a worse weather setter than Pelipper. Now, the other thing that Pelipper gets, and this one is kind of obvious, is that water is super effective into fire. Now, sun nullifies the effect of water. I forget exactly how the math works out, but it turns regular super effective water attacks into fire types into just effective water water type attacks into fire types. If that makes sense. So you lose that boosted stab damage essentially, or boosted effectiveness damage, I should say. You still keep stab. And I think there's some other bonus, but essentially, water is more effective into the traditional fire types that need sun. And then the third and final thing that I want to mention is that Torkoal does not get any way to recover health. If Torkoal eats like an Earth Power from Landorus, for example, that health is gone. You will never see that health come back unless you're running like leftovers or citrus, which then again goes back to our problem of you are not running heat rock, and that means that the rest of your weather abusers are not going to be able to put the pressure that's needed onto the rain abusers. You need that sun out for as long as possible to defeat the rain. And what Pelipper does get is that Pelipper gets Roost. And Roost is an 8 PP move. It heals half of your health. It essentially invalidates any attack that Torkoal can do. If Torkoal can, let me double check that. But Torkoal's not going to be using like a rock move into your Pelipper because it's not even going to be stab damage, and it's not even going to be super effective. So you really need to like play super perfectly if you want to be good here. And I'm just going through. Yeah, the best attack is Solar Beam, but 9 times out of 10 you're going to be something, maybe not Rest, but something similar-ish enough to this set where you're running, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rock, and Lava Plume almost always. There's no reason why you should be running practically anything else. I think Rest could be replaced with like Yawn. I think that there are other moves. You can run like Overheat, Eject Pack. Again, really fringe, because in this matchup, you really need the Sun out to support your Roaring Moon and your Raging Bolt and your Venusaur. Those are your win cons. Those are the 3 mons that are going to win you your game. Where on the opposite side, Jpeg really needs to rely on only 1 mon to win in the rain. And that mon, of course, being Barraskewda. Now, let me just make sure. Yeah, he only has 1 rain abuser in Barraskewda. Whether or not that's a good thing, I don't know. I think this rain team is a little bit flawed. Personally, in like a perfect world, I would actually rather these teams switch Latias and Raging Bolt so that Joey has Raging Bolt, because then you get more accurate Thunders. You're more effective in these matchups versus Sun. And what Avium would get is that they would get a Pokemon that has Levitate, that is immune to ground type attacks, while also being bulky and able to absorb attacks such as water moves and rock moves, and be able to hit it back for super effective damage while also being decently fast and can Terra. Now, that's all hypothetical. switching these two around would be impossible at this point. You'd also be giving up Terra. Not worth it, not worth divulging into further, but I would have liked to have seen the Raging Bolt on the Rain team because it can get access to Thunder, Volt Switch. This team really struggles versus bulky water types, and we will see in the match, actually, it doesn't say, but this Gliscor can Terra, and it's just Terra Water. There's nothing on this team besides Iron Bundle, maybe Latias, that can break a Terra Water Gliscor, because the Barraskewda water type stabs are not going to do it. Lando is not going to put through enough damage to break through the poison heal of Gliscor. Pelipper cannot surf and scald and hurricane a Gliscor down while it's protecting and then regaining with toxic heal and then attacking. This whole matchup is really bad into that Gliscor. And that Gliscor is going to be a key player in the upcoming match, and I will discuss it further in detail once we get to starting the actual match. But let's go through and let's break down these teams bit by bit, what I think should come, what opportunities were missed, and let's start with Joey here on this side. So we know already that they did not bring the Hisuian Sliglu and the Fortress. This, I think, was the appropriate play. Hisuian Sliglu kind of fucking sucks. It has almost no purpose on this team whatsoever. It is a 1 value point mon. You already have a dragon. You already have a steel. You already have 2 steels, actually. This mon, for all intents and purposes, doesn't exist. It should be something better. Whatever, not worth getting into. Fortress isn't coming. I think that that's reasonable into Sun. However, you can see by looking at his team, there is not a lot of Sun abusers on Avium's team. Or should I say traditional Sun abusers. What I mean by traditional Sun abusers, I mean is like really powerful fire types, like a Heatran, let's say, that can, in Sun, boosted Magma Storm, boosted Eruption, and just sweep a team. The closest thing you have is Hisuian Typhlosion. Now, granted, I think Fortress fucking sucks as a mon, and so it's not worth bringing to begin with. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, that's a perfectly fine 6 to bring. However, it is worth noting that Fortress does get access to Rocks and Spikes, which is very important to damaging the Torkoal, which, as we mentioned, is really bad. And their only spinner on the team is Torkoal, which means if they want to get rid of those Rocks and Spikes, it has to be in. And that can be a challenge, especially if you want to, like, crystallize your Latias into a Ghost type. Actually, that's maybe not the best idea, because they've got a Ghost type, and a Dark type. But you get the idea where if you can just, like, Rapid Spin or, like, throw out your Pelipper, for example, you can then chip and break through and damage that Torkoal to the point where it can no longer remove those hazards, so it can no longer set Sun. And they have to rely on manual Sun through the likes of, actually, I'm pretty sure, yeah, Venusaur gets it, Raging Bolt gets it, Gliscor, I think Gold gets it, and I think Moon get it. But you really need to consider something like that when you're going up against this, especially when the team only has 1 removal. Now, as I was saying, I don't think Fortress is even like a good mon at all. It's a bad rocker and a spiker, and if you had like any other rocker spiker, like if you had a Ting Lu on this team, which, like, granted, you don't want a Ting Lu on Rain, but like if you have a good rocker and spiker, yeah, just leave that, set rocks and spikes, and win the game. Avium's team is really weak versus those archetypes, especially if you have a actually, was it drafted? Let me check. A Samurott Hisui. Which was it drafted? Samurott. Oh, there's a better way to do this. But yeah, I want the other one. Excuse me, which it was not drafted 15 points. Excuse me. But yeah, like that mon would be really good into Avium's team because you can just pressure Goldango and also like kill Torkoal with Ceaseless Edge spikes. Literally so good. Now let's get into the actual 6 mons that Joey is bringing here. Um, Iron Bundle looks really good into Avium's team. It is super effective. It can do super effective damage into Roaring Moon, Gliscor, Raging Bolt, and Venusaur. And also Torkoal Set Sun, I mentioned this earlier, it does decrease damage with Hydro Pump. It's also Hydro Pump odds. You also shouldn't be using it in Sun. Essentially, you want your Iron Bundle set to be something along the lines of like boot. You want the item to be boots, because Gliscor can set hazards, and you really don't want this thing getting chipped. You really want this thing in and out throughout the game so that it can pressure Roaring Moon when it's not boosted, so that it can pressure Gliscor if it doesn't Terra, so you can pressure Raging Bolt. Now, granted, Raging Bolt has Thunderclap, which I will talk about, so it can pressure Venusaur outside of Sun. Those are really 3 key. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key mons that your Iron Bundle can check, can beat, and can win against. Your set should be something along the lines of Ice Beam, Freeze Dry, Hydro Pump, and then your 4th move could be Encore. It could be Substitute. It could even be Flip Turn, although I probably wouldn't recommend 4 attacks into a Raging Bolt, and you should probably just bring Encore or Substitute. That is what I am looking at when I see this. Typically, like let's say there was no Pelipper on this team, you just had an Iron Bundle into Sun. I would suggest bringing a Scarf Bundle so you can outspeed Chlorophyll Venusaur, and speed boosting Roaring Moon in Sun. But that does not apply here. You can just always switch your Pelipper in at any given point in time and beat Torkoal. It's literally that simple. No need to overcomplicate it. Next up is Landorus Therian. Landorus Therian, I'm not really too huge for it in this matchup. Well, sorry, that's not true. I think it is really good into this matchup because there is only one flying type, and that is Gliscor. A Gliscor being their only flying type means you can run like Choice Specs Landorus, especially because their speed tier is so abysmal. Just run Choice Specs Earth Power. That's literally gonna let me check that. Uber's Wall Breaker, Sheer Force. You are Choice Specs. Uh, that's Focus Blast Earth Power into Torkoal. Yeah, this thing just fucking dies into Goldango. Oh, it says balloon. Whatever. Yeah, this thing fucking dies. Venusaur. Earth Power. It fucking dies after rocks. What was the other? Raging Bolt. It it dies after rocks. There's no reason to overcomplicate this. And just bring Choice Specs, Sheer Force Landorus with Earth Power and click it. At any given time, you will just win the match. It is that simple. The only thing you need to be worried about is a Gliscor, um, which, as we already know, can Terra, and if it does Terra into Terra Water, which it kind of needs to do to not lose to Barraskewda, because you don't have like a good Barraskewda switch in. You have like Venusaur, um, and I guess you sort of have Raging Bolt, but like Raging Bolt doesn't want to get chipped. It really wants like leftovers in this match, and that's not including like a Stray Ice Fang. It could also Terastallize Fairy. Like, you really need a good defensive backbone here, and your backbone is terrestrializing your Gliscor water. So, oopsie, wrong tab. So when you terrestrialize, it just fucking dies. You have no answer. Your Avium has no answer to Lando. Their team is too slow. It outspeeds Goldango, Gliscor, Raging Bolt, Torkoal, Hisui, Venusaur not in Sun, and it does not outspeed Roaring Moon and Rabombi, which you can just switch out into literally anything else. You can sack your Jirachi to like a knockoff from Roaring Moon, and then like bring in your Iron Bundle, and you'll just win the match. Not complicated, not hard at all. Pelipper, we've already kind of gone over. Should just be a standard range setter. Damp Rock, Roost, U-turn. I would say Surf over Hydro Pump or Scald. I actually don't think it gets Scald anymore. But just bring Surf. You really don't want to be clicking Surf ever. What are you clicking Surf into? They have 2 dragons that resist. They have a Gliscor that's likely going to Terra into Terra Water. And then Torkoal and Hisuian Typhlosion, of course, have are weak, but they're never going to be in rain. And then there's Venusaur. I would say probably last you bring Hurricane for Venusaur, just in case you get stuck in this like weird sticky position. But Roost, U-turn, Surf, Hurricane. Don't overthink it. That's your set. Jirachi. Jirachi kind of stinks into this matchup, and is probably the only reason why you should consider Fortress. Just like lead Fortress with like a sash, and then do like rock spikes, and then kill yourself with like an explosion or a memento, so that it can't spin it off. Jirachi is bad into Roaring Moon. At knockoff, you kill it, it dies. It gets a Dragon Dance, it earthquakes, you die. Really nothing good. Goldango is Jirachi cannot hit Goldango. You can fire punch it, I guess. It will click T-Wave, it'll click Recover, it'll click Shadow Ball. You will die. Quick water break. Gliscor just clicks Earthquake, and it kills Jirachi. Raging Bolt. Jirachi is probably okay into that. It resists the Dragon type, does not resist Electric, so you're kind of just getting chunked by Thunderbolt, or more accurately, Thunder, because remember, you're facing a Rain team. And you are dying. Just very simple, very quickly. I'm sure if I pull up the calc, Jirachi into Raging Bolt just loses. It's not that good. It's a Jirachi. And it loses to Torkoal, it just clicks Flamethrower, Hisuian Typhlosion, Ghost Fire, it extra dies to that. And maybe it's good into Venusaur, it resists Grass. It can attack it back with super effective, stab Psychics. But has to worry about like getting a growth +2 Earth Tower that I believe should kill from any percent. And then good into Rabombi. Rabombi, if you're looking at your team, is not coming though. Let's be real. Next up, Barraskewda. Barraskewda, it should always just be choice banded, especially in rain, because you have the Swift Swim boost, 135. It is the 3rd fastest thing in the tier, behind Dragapult, which is banned, Iron Bundle, which you have, and then Barraskewda. So you should just be choice banding it. You can probably go Adamant in 100% of matchups because you have the Iron Bundle. Maybe you'll need it to like outspeed a Meowscarada once. You'll need to run like, what is it, Jolly? But really, realistically, yeah, you should just be choice band, Adamant, and clicking Liquidation with Terra Water. That will win you every match here. in all of these unless they are like uber prepared or they have an Overpon Wellspring with Water Absorb that just isn't drafted. And I know you had it drafted first, but same idea applies. Nothing stands in your way. The only problem is Raging Bolt with Thunderclap, and so you use it to sweep rather than to use it to clean rather than to sweep at the end of the game. Not hard. If you're really concerned about running a Choice Band, just run a Life Orb. You don't need health on this thing pretty much ever. Yeah, this thing should just win you games. And then finally we have the Latias. Terra Latias is so fucking broken. Yeah, I actually definitely made a mistake allowing this mod to be legal. If there was one thing I could do, it's definitely to go back and ban this thing from terastallizing. It is so good. You could run like you could run Terra Fairy Latias, Calm Mind twice, and just win the game on the spot. It does not matter. Your set would be Calm Mind, Recover / Roost, what is it, Mist Ball, Draining Kiss. You would beat every mon here. You probably wouldn't beat Goldango. You would need to beat Goldango somehow. And that's a big problem that this team has, is its matchup into Goldango. But I really think that Latias is super fucking broken. It's really good here. Roaring Moon can't touch it. Raging Bolt can't touch it. Torkoal can't touch it. Gliscor has a hard time touching it. And yeah, it's just fucking broken. I really wish I had banned Terra Latias. But that is not the world we live in. We live in a world where Avium, we are now on, needs to fight this squad. So we had already mentioned how Sun has a miserable matchup into Rain at all times. It doesn't matter if it's OU, it doesn't matter if it's NU, ZU, whatever. Sun will always lose to Rain. However, Avium has a few tools that are really good for him. And those tools are Venusaur. Venusaur in this matchup is so good, and I will get into that in just a second. Raging Bolt into this matchup is so good. Thunderbolt does neutral damage to everything, neutral or super effective damage to everything, with the exception of like Latias, which, let's be real, should be terastallizing, and Landorus, which is weak. No, it's not weak, but it loses its effective. You can hit it normally with your dragon type moves. On top of that, there is no fairy on this team, which also leads to Roaring Moon just being able to just click moves. Roaring Moon's biggest trouble is fairy types. Fairy and fighting types really hinder Roaring Moon's ability to break, sweep, and clean up games. This team does not have a fairy type. It does not have a fighting type, or a dark type for that matter. Dark types will also stop knockoff. Not really super like worth mentioning though. There is an Iron Bundle which does hinder the Roaring Moon and the Raging Bolt, but to counter that, you have a Goldango, and there is no Ghost Resist again into this team. You slap on a Choice Scarf or a Choice Specs, it will do like half to everything. I know we had talked about like the Landorus versus Goldango matchup here. Make It Rain to Lando does, and this max special attack air balloon, this literally 3/4 of its health, and Shadow Ball does half. And then not to mention, if you get like a choice that scarf specs, Make It Rain literally kills into bundle. Make It Rain literally kills. Same thing with Shadow Ball into fucking Pelipper. Make it rain, which resists. It might even, does it quad? No, it doesn't quad resist. It just resists. It does more than half with the choice specs. And this is like a timid nature. Shadow Ball is like, Shadow Ball is a rule to kill after rocks. Guaranteed OHIT KO after stealth rocks. So that's something that you should be considering, is not only like sure, Landorus is really good into your team, but your Goldengo is also really good into your team. They have no answer to Goldengo. Their answer to Goldengo is like, hope you click Make It Rain into a Jirachi, or have a full health Lando switch in and eat like 75%. Now, granted, getting to that position is hard. You really need to switch into like a Jirachi or a Latias and be able to force it out effectively. And that's not easy, again, because Latias can Terra. But if you can get it in, or with like a Volt switch, for example, if you bring in Raging Bolt into a choice locked liquidation Barraskewda, it can't Terra. It does. Let me check that damage. Barraskewda, Rain Sweeper into a Raging Bolt. Booster energy. Let's get rid of that. Into Rain. Liquidation. Even if it terrestrializes water, will not kill it. So you can just freely click Volt Switch because, again, they're switching to Raging Bolt is Landorus, and if you click Draco Meteor, I mean, this is Dragon Pulse right now, but if you click Draco Meteor into a Lando, Dragon Pulse does that much, Draco Meteor does that much. And it is dead after rocks. Oh, whoopsie. And it is dead after rocks. So that is something that you really need to consider, because their their Raging Bolt switching is effectively non-existent because Bundle also drops to a Draco Meteor. Why you would be switching that in, I don't know. Pelipper drops, Jirachi. Let me check the calc on that. Jirachi does not drop, but that's why you should be Volt switching and not Draco Meteoring. And so if you're like actively switching out and gaining that momentum, which keep in mind, you greatly need the momentum because Torkoal cannot cannot switch out on its own. So Pelipper comes in, Raging Bolt comes in, can't really damage it. You click Volt Switch, nothing else really wants to switch in. It goes Jirachi, you go Torkoal, you get your weather back up. You can then Rapid Spin the hazards. You can Wisp or Yawn the Pelipper. And so even though this is a losing matchup, it's really not impossible given your tools. And this isn't even beginning to mention Gliscor, which if you give it enough, so Barraskewda really wants to just click Liquidation with Terra Water and tear through your whole team. However, Barraskewda versus Gliscor, it cannot do that. This is ground flying, which means it's super effective. I guess it's not in rain. In rain, it does a little bit more. But like, it doesn't even KO if you have good defense EVs. You can actually take that down to 0. And even though now it kills, if you terrestrialize water, it does so much less. Even in rain, even with terrestrializing water, it barely does half. You can protect, you can facade, and Earthquake does a fuck ton of damage. That is not damage that Barraskewda wants to take. Gliscor can eat a liquidation, and keep in mind this is with no defense. If you were to go like 168 and then like 168 gets you below half, and that's not including Toxic Heal after every turn, which means you can 1v1 Barraskewda in rain with Terra Water Gliscor. It is actually insane. You do not need any other answers to Barraskewda, because it will just always win. Water Break. Okay. Gliscor should be Terra Water. What should the moveset be, though? Because it's really kind of hard to figure out, like, how you want to damage this team, because you really don't want to bring Earthquake, because it's really only effective into Jirachi. So how else do you win and do damage versus this team? Well, the obvious answer is through Rocks and Spikes. Barraskewda does not want to take Rocks plus Spikes damage, because that limits the amount of time that it can be in, because it needs to be switching in and out constantly, because you're in the middle of a weather war. Coupled with the fact that uh, you get 1, 2, 3.5 Barraskewda switch-ins. So it really doesn't want to be like attacking and doing that much. Like it really wants to come in at the end of the game and just clean up after everything is at low health. So to mitigate that, you want to set up a lot of rocks and spikes with your Gliscor. Excuse me, and this helps because Pelipper, and Bundle are also weak to rocks and spikes, and their only spinner is a fortress, which is not going to be coming versus a Sun team. I mean, well, I spoke about like, oh, how it might be better than Jirachi, but you're not bringing a fortress into Sun. Like that is not happening. It's really just like a fringe pick to consider. It's really not that great. Just bring rocks, spikes, set them, and win the game that way. You then run like Facade and Earthquake, or like Facade Toxic maybe. I really think that Facade is pretty good here. You're kind of walled by Jirachi if you don't bring Earthquake. Like if you bring Rock Spikes, Toxic, um, Facade, you're not breaking through a Jirachi, but that's fine when you can just always go like Torkoal or Hisuian Typhlosion or Goldengo, actually. Just go Goldengo on your Jirachi and then Thunderwave it and watch it struggle. Because it can't do anything to you besides like Fire Punch. Fucking even Roaring Moon just loses beats Jirachi. Like if you're worried about Jirachi, you have other answers to it. In these Pokemon, heck, even Raging Bolt, I'm sure Thunderbolt does like half. I don't have it up. Raging Bolt, get rid of the photosynthesis into a Jirachi. Thunderbolt is a little bit less than half, assuming it's max health. And no Spidef. Again, not really worth getting into like what the spread might be. Just more so focusing on like raw damage output that is theoretically possible that you could be doing. And you need to keep in mind, like I keep mentioning these like theoretical damage rolls. You need to also be during your game calking these damages out. Because we had saw that Raging Bolt one-hit KOs Landorus Incarnate with a Draco Meteor, but if it doesn't one-hit KO the Landorus Incarnate with a Draco Meteor, then that means you know that it's bulky, which means it cannot do as much damage to your other threats. And so this is really just like a big, giant war of information between these two mons and these two teams. And you really need to keep that in mind. The Goldengo set we kind of went over a little bit here, but it should be Shadow Ball, Make It Rain, Recover, and Thunder Wave. The slower that these mons are, the better it is for your team, because your team is very slow. The only mon that is, you have two mons that are faster than base 100, that is Roaring Moon and Rabompi. Those are not good Pokemon that are faster than 100. You really desperately need a mon on this team that hits base speed 100, and you just do not have it. However, you do have two of the best Thunderwave users in the game in Raging Bolt and Goldengo. Now, Raging Bolt into Rain is not going to be bringing T-Wave, but Goldengo can. You need to really use that to your advantage because you do not need A huge ton of damage. I mean, we were looking at like choice specs damage earlier, if you remember. But that is not required to win. It just helps. Thunderwave is not required to win here. It just helps. You could run like a choice specs trick team here, or you could run like T-Wave, and both of them would do the same thing, and both of them would win you the game. The only thing that I wouldn't recommend would be a Nasty Plot set here, because if there's nothing that you're ever clicking Nasty Plot on. Are you clicking Nasty Plot on an Iron Bundle in Rain as it Hydro Pumps you? That's going to do way more than half, and you're not going to be able to get another attack off. Are you doing it on a Latias, which could be running something like Shadow Ball, or any damaging move, and you would just die in the next hit. So you really don't want to be boosting, and you just want to be throwing out attacks or throwing out utility. And if you happen to get hit and you happen to get too low, there's too many rocks, there's too many spikes, you click recover. That's it. That's your game plan. Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon should probably be Scarf here, I would say. Scarf to outfeed Barraskewda and Bundle. This comes back to a problem of Joey's team. There's no fairy type. You can run like Adamant, Scarf, Outrage, and just kill everything. Granted, it won't kill Jirachi, won't kill Terra Fairy here. You'll probably get revenge kills by Iron Bundle. It doesn't matter if you kill their Pelipper and they don't get rain anymore. Your sun comes in, that's the only weather. And you just win the game that way. You have to consider these like risk-reward outcomes of bringing good moves. Bringing something like Choice Band, Knockoff, Outrage, Iron Head, U-Turn. It sounds like a crazy set and like a crazy bring, but it just does damage to this team. You can bring like a Dragon Claw even. Dragon Claw won't kill, it won't like give you kill rolls on these things, but it's also pretty fast, and it'll be faster in the sun. And that's what's important, because if your Roaring Moon is out and there is sun up, and you are clicking like Choice Scarf Dragon Claw with Adamant, Pelipper dies in 2 hits. It will not be able to stay out there and get rid of your boosts. I mean, it'll come in, it'll get rid of your boosts, but it'll die, and then you can bring in your own Torkoal or set your own manual weather. And that's really good for this team. I probably would not consider a booster energy set or a a booster energy. God, I forgot the name. Or like an acrobatics set. Just because you don't really need the flying damage into this. It's just not, or a Dragon Dance set. That was just what I was thinking of, where you just like Dragon Dance up. It's just not worth it. You really just want to do as much damage as possible and keep your own weather up. This is a game of hyper offense. This is not like two bulky balances going it out. Who can click like U-turn and get the better positioning? This is like, I am going to beat you to death with a sack of bricks, and if I don't beat you to death with a sack of bricks, Joey is going to beat you to death with a sack of bricks. And whoever can fucking throw those bricks at each other harder is going to win this fucking match. That is what you need to consider. This will not be a slow, drawn out 75 turn game. This game should be like less than 30 moves. And that's something that you need to think about and consider more deeply when you're analyzing these games in the builder. Now, Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt honestly should just be like a leftover set. You don't really need Calm Mind to deal a ton of damage. You don't need Booster Energy to deal a ton of damage. I really think that it should be like a Thunderbolt, Draco Meteor, Volt Switch, Thunderclap set, so you can beat Barraskewda. I think that there are some things that you could maybe like swap out. So I think you should like keep Draco Meteor, but like Thunderbolt could become Thunderbolt could become Thunder, for example, and you can get the jump on them that way. Whereas if you're in Rain, you can click Thunder and it'll always hit something, and it'll always do a ton of damage because, again, their only real resist is Lanias, which wants to Terra out of its Dragon type, and Landorus, which dies to your Draco Meteor. So just something to keep in mind, and you also want Volt Switch to keep the momentum up. This team really doesn't have a lot of good momentum here. It has Roaring Moon U-Turn, Gliscor U-Turn, Raging Bolt Volt Switch, and that's it. Rabambi gets U-Turn as well. It's a special attacker. You should never be running U-Turn on it anyway. Torkoal, we already went over. Heat Rock, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rock, Lava Plume, Wisp, Yawn last. Hisuian Typhlosion is an interesting pick because I think you actually could bring it this match. As weird as that sounds, just run like a Scarf Shadow Ball set or like a Scarf Hex set. Your team really doesn't have a ton of great ways to like help out with Hex here, besides what we mentioned, like Goldengo Thunderwave. Gliscor can run like Toxic or T-Spikes, Wisp / Yawn, Thunderbolt Para, but it's an option to consider, especially because it switches into Jirachi pretty well. But again, you already have a good Jirachi switch in, and it just kind of loses to everything else. It might beat like a Latias maybe potentially, but it really just kind of loses to these two, and that's sort of a problem for your team already, so there's no point really bringing it. Venusaur, I think, is very good here. Venusaur should wall or help wall Barraskewda, and you should be bringing something like Manual Sun on your Venusaur so that you can switch into a Barraskewda Liquidation, set your own Sun, then click Growth while the Barraskewda switches out, or like Synthesis if you're already low, or your opponent got up like Spikes already. And so that way it can come in, and of course you have to worry about like Pelipper switching in, but Venusaur can just click like Sludge Bomb, for example, into that, fish for poisons. It's really not that bad. I honestly think it's very good into this matchup. It isn't weak to Landorus Incarnate Earth Power, which a lot of poison types are because of its grass typing, primary grass typing. Excuse me, and it's just overall like it's good into Jirachi with Earth Power. It's good into Barraskewda. You can Giga Drain the Landorus to get back health. Chlorophyll outspeeds Iron Bundle, and you can do like funny Grass Move or Sludge Bomb. Lanias, we already talked about, is probably going to be a Terra Fairy. It's good versus that, although you like do die to Psyshock or whatever. And then Rabambi would just be a ridiculous bring. You'd be throwing, maybe you wouldn't be throwing, because you can set up Sticky Web, and then it kind of plagues the whole team, because their only remover is Fortress, which they're not bringing. But again, you run into this situation where Pelipper is out versus your Rabambi. You set Sticky Webs, Hurricane, bring you down to your Sash, and then you just U-turn out, and you've just like lost the weather war already. And granted, you have webs up, but it means you don't have one of your Venusaur, Bolt, Gliscor, Goldengo, or Raging Moon. And so with all of that done, and being a solid 50 minutes into this video, let's finally look at the replay. And by look at the replay, I mean let's go over the starting screen and what you should be looking for and what you should be paying attention to. Quick little water break, and we're back. So immediately upon looking at this team, you want to try and guesstimate your opponent's set. So if I'm Jpeg, I imagine that the Goldengo is going to be a little bit more bulkier. I think that the Goldengo is going to try and it's going to have some HP investment. It is going to have some special defense investment. And it is going to try and click Shadow Ball. And it is going to try and drop it, like Spadef drop your team. It's really good into this into your own Lanias, especially for Terra Fairy. It's really good into your Jirachi, and so if you can Shadow Ball and then weaken one of these 4 that it's good into, you're in a really good position. So you, as Jpeg, want to avoid those positions by U-turning or by switching out, doubling, and going from there. If I'm Jpeg, Raging Bolt scares the ever-living shit out of me. It clicks Draco Meteor, and like something dies. And if they switch into Jirachi, you Volt Switch and go something that will kill it. Which brings us back to the Goldango, where it'll then chip through and it'll do a lot of damage to these 4 because it doesn't really want to be in versus that. Gliscor. Gliscor we know is Terra Water. It's really good defensively, and it'll absorb hits from the likes of Latias and Barraskewda and Pelipper, and to a lesser extent Lando and Jirachi. It really kind of struggles versus Iron Bundle because it can just click like Freeze Dry or Ice Beam, but Iron Bundle can't directly switch into it, so you need to be careful about that. Roaring Moon here, I think, is, it should be expected. You should be expecting a choice band set here, just clicking Knock Off, trying to disrupt your team, clicking Dragon Move, trying to force things to happen. It really just wants to force progress from Avium. Torkoal is trying to oppose your sun, your rain, I apologize, and wants to try and win with that condition of their own weather. And that's really powerful, but we already went over that Pelipper can almost always switch in, click Roost, and get back up to full and take full control of the game. It should not be an issue dealing with this Torkoal, but just know if things get out of hand, Torkoal will win the game for them. And then Venusaur, you should know that it's just going to be a Chlorophyll Sweeper. It's going to click Growth, and it's going to tear through the team. But if you can get Rain back up and go like Iron Bundle, let's say, and click Ice Beam, Venusaur will die, and you will not have a game. Now, if I'm Avium, what I want to be considering is what their lead is going to be, because my Torkoal always sets weather over their rain. So what I would consider is Jpeg is not going to lead Pelipper because Pelipper wants to come in on their sun. So if I lead Torkoal, I need to consider the possibility of running into, and just looking at the command, a Landorus with Earth Power or a Latias. Because those are the 2 best things into your Torkoal. And so now, knowing this, I would make a play here, where I lead something that is good into both of these, and to me, that is Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon resists the water type, and it doesn't resist the Hurricane, but it resists the water type attack of Pelipper if they happen to do a dumb lead Pelipper and forget that Sun beats out Rain. While also being super effective, or not super effective, but does a lot of effective damage to Latias and Landorus, which are their 2 counter leads. Barraskewda is never going to lead outside of Rain. If Bundle leads outside of Rain, you can always double to Pelipper, because it is going to click Ice Beam, and it is going to do 3 damage to especially defensive Torkoal, and it can no longer click Hydro Pump, and then you could actually even make the double, so after you set Sun, go into your Roaring Moon, because they are either going to stay in with Bundle and do something stupid, which you can then punish with a Thunderbolt or a Thunderclap, or they're going to double into Pelipper after you get your weather up, and so you now have Raging Bolt in. You can click Electric Move, you can click Dragon Move, and progress will be made here. I don't even think that I would consider really anything else as Avium. I would imagine that this is like a defensive Jirachi, or especially defensive Jirachi, so that you don't lose to Raging Bolt. And I would just imagine that the Latias is Calm Mind at all times. So let's play with the sound off. Let me click pause. Just look at the Terra types. So there's no image here. If you're new and you can't read it, it corresponds. So JPEG slot 1 goes with slot 1. So Jirachi is Terra Stellar, Terra Stellar, Terra Stellar, Terra Normal Barraskewda, Terra Stellar, Terra Flying. So that's how you tell. If you're watching a replay and you don't know how to tell. Avium, Goldango 1, Goldango Dragon, Stellar, and then Gliscor Terra Water. We mentioned that. Basu joined, and that's that. Now let me also go down to playing speed. Let me go to really slow so we can walk through and we can talk about these games as they these moves as they happen. So Pelipper is led here by Jpeg, which, as we already discussed, I think is a bad lead because Rain is set first and then Sun. So if Avium led Torkoal, they are now in a better position where they have to then switch out. And we didn't really talk about this, but they can also run like manual weather, which I think would be very good on this team if you don't want to run Hurricane. So that's something that you need to be thinking about. However, leading a counter lead like Roaring Moon here is probably your most effective answer to whatever JPEG wants to throw out, in this case, a Pelipper. Let's see what Avium brought out. And they bring out a Roaring Moon. Now, this, I think, is an excellent play on the behalf of Avium, and is a really strong start. So if I'm JPEG, I need to be concerned about the possibility of a dragon move coming out. If a dragon move comes out, because listen, we see no booster energy proc, so we don't know what the item is. The item could be boots. The item could be I am on slow. Let me set it to normal. It could be boots. It could be choiced. It could be life orb even. I'm really sort of unsure if I'm JPEG what I think this item is. However, what I do know is that this move is going to be a dragon move. And you can tell because you have not been able to Terastallize your Latias into Fairy, which, as we already saw, it cannot do. So you have a free either knockoff here. Actually, knockoff is probably better because it's neutral to super effective damage on everything on this team. So knockoff should just come out, and you should win the game by either knocking off the damp rock right here, or by severely crippling the incoming Iron Bundle or Lando. Excellent move by Avium, and I think that he should really be commended for a good lead here that he maybe otherwise would not have had otherwise. Okay. And then Jpeg, if you're bulky, you kind of want to like U-turn here, I would imagine, and try and like slow bring in something, bring in your Barraskewda, bring in your Landorus, and just sort of see. But you're really already playing from the back foot. You did not want to lead your Pelipper, and you were severely punished for leading your Pelipper. That is something that you desperately need to pay attention to here. So U-turn comes out from Avium here, and this is a bad move. You had a powerful attack into any mon of your choice, and you predicted a double, essentially. You predicted that whatever their mon brings out is going to be more effective than clicking like knockoff or disturbing their team, disrupting their team. And so the reason why you would want to U-turn is to get in something better. But Roaring Moon is already the best thing on the field, so this is just a misplay, because you're now going to your second worst thing, and the Pelipper is now going to do something. You've lost all momentum and all control of this match from that first move. You had an amazing lead, but then didn't capitalize on the strength of that lead. And now let's see what they go to, and let's see what Jpeg has done here. Goes Gliscor. Okay, so now this, I think, is probably fine. Maybe Torkoal would have been better. But if Torkoal comes out, you have to consider like eating a Surf, which is a problem, or like a U-turn. Excuse me. Although U-turn probably isn't that bad. Excuse me, because Torkoal is out, the U-turn. Where do they go? They go like Landorus. Maybe going Gliscor is probably the best bet, and then you get your Toxic Orb, which I think is good, and you can start setting your layers of rocks and spikes, which you should just have on your Gliscor. And now let's see what happens with the Pelipper. The Pelipper also U-turns, which again, I mean, we can check the damage calculator here. Moon versus a Rain Setter. U-turn does bomb, 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 bomb. Less than a quarter of your HP, whereas Knockoff did like half of theirs. And that doesn't even mention, like, this is like a booster energy set that's like, is it plus attack? Let me get rid of that. Okay, so just a little bit less. But if you're like a Roaring Moon choice band, yeah, Outrage, if you clicked Outrage, if you had brought Outrage and you had clicked Outrage, you could set up rocks and not have to deal with rain ever again. And keep in mind, this is a Jolly Nature. You probably don't even need a Jolly Nature here. You could run an Adamant Nature, and it's literally lights out. You win the game on the spot. Now, granted, you can also run like a Dragon Claw, and like Dragon Claw does half, and it that, or you can do like a knockoff, and knockoff like disrupts their weather setting. It's U-turn was the wrong play here. Because at worst, they hurricane you. So what? Maybe you get confused and you switch into your Torkoal? Or they U-turn, it does like 25. Maybe your items leftovers, it's revealed, and suddenly you're chilling, and you're just winning the game. However, in this position, you are now losing the game. All it took was one slow U-turn. Iron Bundle is in. What is your switch into Iron Bundle? Seriously, are you going to with a Gliscor in? So I would say that your first goal is probably to just protect here, and then play it out from there. But you also have the option of going like Goldango if you're a little bit more bulkier, or going Torkoal. But Torkoal, again, we've mentioned this, and I'm going to keep on bringing it up, doesn't want to take those chip damages. It much rather would prefer to stay healthy so that it can switch in as often, because it doesn't get leftovers and it doesn't get a recovery, whereas Pelipper does. So what I think Jpeg should do, Jpeg, we already know that it's Terra Water. Just click Freeze Dry. No need to complicate it. No need to do anything. Goldango, if Goldango switches into a Freeze Dry, so what? Switch to something else. Who cares? And maybe that's a little naive. I mean, like, what are you going to switch into, like, a Choice Specs, Make It Rain? You really don't have a switch in there. But it should not really be a concern when you have your rain up that Goldango is coming in, because you can just click, let me show you, it's Bundle, Heavy Duty Boots, which you want for the rocks and spikes, into, what is that? That's the Roaring Moon, Goldango. You're going to say that you're bulky. It does 50 outside of rain. In rain, it does way too much fucking damage. And again, their team is really slow, so you can run a plus special attack modest nature, and after freeze dry, Hydro Pump kills in rain. And so that's your Goldango problem just gone out of the way. So let's see what happens. Toxic Poison goes up, and you double out. Let's just quickly do an analysis of what doubling out does for you. And I mean this so sincerely. What was switching in to Iron Bundle here? It is the Gliscor is either going to terrestrialize to avoid taking a quad weak freeze dry and killing it, and instead opting to protect. A Goldango is coming in, or a Torkoal is coming in. If Torkoal came in, which is their best option, and I think that is the option that plays out, you chip it, which it cannot heal back, and you can then switch out into something better, such as your Pelipper, which you've already done, and let the game play on with this Torkoal chipped. But if he doubled to Goldango, and you double to Pelipper, if he switched out to Goldango and you switched out to Pelipper, you are in another losing position because Pelipper does not want to eat a Shadow Ball. Nothing on your team wants to eat a Shadow Ball. So if you are attacking, you are in a much better position here, always. Always, always, always. Because the Venusaur is not coming in because it is weak. The Raging Bolt is not coming in because it's weak. The Roaring Moon is not coming in because it's weak. And the Gliscor is already in, which is weak. They have 3 options. Protect, go Torkoal, go Goldango. Go Goldango. Go Goldango. What exactly of those 3 options does going Pelipper cover? It covers the double to Torkoal. It does not cover any other option. There is no point to do this because, again, if Torkoal comes in, Pelipper can just come in afterwards. There's nothing else to worry about. If you get burnt, it doesn't matter. If you get erupted on, it doesn't matter. You will roost it, you will heal it off. On top of that, you do not want Gliscor setting hazards on a bad double because you have no removal. If rocks go up, if spikes go up, you lose this game. Keep that in mind when you are playing. Let's see what Avium does. A double to Torkoal. You get the play right, and you are still punished because remember, Iron Bundle is faster, which means it switches out first. This is instantly a losing position. And you made the best decision of your losing decisions. Imagine if you had just clicked Freeze Dry. Freeze Dry into Torkoal. Come on, where's my mousey? Iron Bundle into Torkoal. Freeze Dry just 23%. That is 23%. It will not get back. You do that 4 times, you win the game. Yeah, and this is in Sun. Fucking Hydro Pump still does a fuck ton of damage, even in Sun. Yeah, and it was such an incredibly bad play to double in that position. And so now you are back losing. And then we get to this turn. So, in this position, Avium has all of the advantage. We discussed that. So what should Avium be doing here? Well, Torkoal doesn't get any switch moves to switch out, and it can't really hit Pelipper like what we had mentioned. So Avium, prior to this turn, should be clicking something along the lines of either status, like Yawn, which we can see that it did, or something like Wisp or Stealth Rocks. Do something to do damage, because your regular fire type attacking damage is not going to be doing a whole ton to a bulky Pelipper. And I think that you did get the play and the idea right with Pelipper. Excuse me, that you do not want to switch out here and keep the stun up. You want to click your manual weather if you have it. Now, as we mentioned, you should realistically, maybe even not realistically, but you don't need manual weather on your Pelipper, because it'll just come in on Torkoal. But in this rare situation where where your Pelipper is in on the Torkoal and the sun is up, this is the reason why you want manual weather. But you just want rain here. Snow doesn't benefit either side. It maybe benefits your Iron Bundle versus Roaring Moon. It means that your Roaring Moon it means that your Iron Bundle can switch into like one extra, like Dragon Claw from Choice Banded Roaring Moon. It is not doing what you think it's doing here. It is doing nothing. Sorry, it's just so baffling that you click Snowscape here over U-turn or Rain Dance. Because if you had just gone like Lando, Latias, you're just in a much better position. And granted, they clicked Yawn, which means you would need to switch out again. But you already wanted to switch out again because, and get this, you need the rain to be up, and Pelipper can always enter on Torkoal. Now that brings me to the next point, that Yawn is fucking terrible here. And it's not that bad. Like, you could have clicked a fire move here, and that probably would have been worse. Your best option is just to always click Stealth Rock here, if you have it. Now, granted, you could be running like a really weird set, like a Lava Plume, Rapid Spin, Sunny Day. God, then you don't even have a last move. Rapid Spin, Sunny Day. Yawn is just terrible because they're always going to switch out, and they're always going to switch into Pelipper. Your Torkoal does not want to be in this match. And I know that's kind of like hard or kind of annoying, and maybe like you should have maybe we should have considered like Rabambi so that you can set I apologize, webs, which would be better for your team. But Yawn is not the play because Yawn forces a switch out, but your opponent's team already wants to switch out. So it's just equally baffling from both sides here. A U-turn comes out. I think that's probably to be expected. They probably expected a double because Snow fucking sucks and they're really confused. But I don't really know what I would double into. I feel like a U-turn is very obvious here because you're not going to be clicking Surf because you set Snow. Like, if you had set Rain, then like Surf would come out. We would go like Venusaur or Raging Bolt and play from there. But what I really think is happening is that Iron Bundle is going to come in, and so you want to click a Fire move here, I would say. And your red card. Red card is interesting because you're forgoing Sun for no reason. and I mean that in the nicest way possible. You desperately need Sun in this match to win the game with your Venusaur and your Roaring Moon and your Raging Bolt, and to run an item such as Red Card, you will lose the match because you do not have the turns of Sun that you need to win and sweep the game with your Sun sweepers. Now, granted, we just saw Snowscape come out, and why the fuck Snowscape was clicked, I have no idea. So we are obviously in for a doozy here, but it is at the very least an option that was clicked, and is granted a tone setter for the match to come. So Wisp comes out, and Wisp is going to burn this Lottie here. Lottie doesn't mind being in here because it just clicks Calm Mind, and nothing switches into like a psychic move. I mean, maybe you could argue that Roaring Moon could come in, but then you have to worry about like an ice move because like again 1, 2, 3, 4 Pokemon are weak to ice. But if there's like a psychic type move, that's does neutral to super effective damage on these 5. So it's really a bit of a gamble, and why I think a especially defensive Goldenga would be good here, even with something like Trick or Thunderwave, so you can just like neuter this Latias and come back in and clean it up later. Burned. And yeah, then there was that double into bundle. So that kind of gave away the whole hand of, sorry, water break, of, wanting to U-turn into bundle onto Torkoal because it'll do a lot of damage. But you now need to eat an attack, or again, you're gonna get doubled into Guldango, which I had mentioned being the best move, and it's good into both of these two. So what you should really be doing is doubling into something like Lando or Pelipper, again, to set your rain, which is super important. And of course, Bolt comes in. And Bolt, I think, is a great move because Pelipper should always be coming back in, and it should always be setting rain. Now, granted, the double, the bad, the bad double to Iron Bundle is paying off here because Avium expected the switch back to Pelipper to set the rain. Excuse me, which will allow his more powerful threats to come back in. But if, excuse me, he had clicked like a fire move, like it becomes bad. And also you have to keep in mind, like, you don't know what the Lanias is going to do here. So if the Lanias just attacks and it drops like a Draco or a Dragon Pulse, you just kind of lose the game on the spot. So it's a good double in the sense that you expected the Pelipper to come back in, but it's a bad double because you don't want to switch it into the Lanias, but your opponent made an even worse play, which is why this game is very interesting. Let me add. Because I think that the best play was just go Goldengo. Like, very obvious, and if you just did the best play, you win, but you made a read on what you thought the best play was, and you were punished, and so that's why it's very interesting why we're going over this game. And then it instantly switches back out, and then Sunny Day is summoned. Manual Sunny Day here, I think is great. I think that is an amazing, 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 phenomenal move. It weakens the power of Hydro Pump. Now, granted, it was going to click an ice move, but if you're a weakness policy, which like I don't think you are, I think if you're running a weird item that's not like leftovers, you're probably Sunny Day for literally this exact moment. Sunny Day. Heat Rock for this exact moment, so you get that extra long sun out. But like a weakness policy here where you can then like click Thunderclap or Volt Switch after your Sunny Day, I think is phenomenal. And this switch to Lottie doesn't do what you want it to do because the Iron Bundle could just attack. If the Iron Bundle attacked, this thing is shipped, Sun comes up, and then based on the damage roll, you can figure out if it's Specs or Scarf or Boots, and then figure out if you want a Thunderclap from there or not. If you Thunderclap, it'll just drop the Iron Bundle, and you might just win the game on the spot. It would take a good conversion, but it would certainly be possible. So Lonnie comes back in, and you switch out to Venusaur on the Draining Kiss. I don't know my thoughts on the play because, again, it's really sort of complicated because if they just click like Mist Ball, for example, your Venusaur dies, and again the game is over. So if you wanted to double, you really wanted to go Goldango here and then click like Shadow Ball or Make It Rain. Or you could have just stayed in because again, remember that it's flying type Terrasilize, so you could click a dragon type move into it, which is super effective, and if it's not super effective, it's neutral and you can Volt Switch out with something that's super effective. So hard doubling to Venusaur I don't like, but it ends up paying off because it's a Draining Kiss set, which I would have expected out of a Terra Fairy Calm Mind set, but that's just not the set, and that's not what's happening. So let's play from here. Yeah, burn damage comes out. Pelipper comes in on a knockoff. Knockoff, I think, is certainly a move to have on Venusaur that would be much better on the likes of Gliscor or Roaring Moon, and something that you should have clicked from the beginning because you, God, I don't know that I can do this for the whole length of the goddamn game because this game is so fucking long. But yeah, geez, yeah, I'm gonna like just talk like this now. I hope you don't mind because I've been going at this for like an hour and 20 minutes. Okay, all right. Knock off. Jesus Christ, I can't even like talk about like how bad of a move that is because you should be clicking. You shouldn't even be clicking a move there because you're worried about a psychic type move, or you should be like bulking up with like growth on the psychic type move, but if you click growth, you only go up to +1 on Venusaur, so you should be attacking. And it's just like a mind-boggling play that if you just went Goldango, you'd be in a much better position and not clicking knockoff with a physical Venusaur. But Pelipper comes in and you knock off, and we haven't even revealed the best part yet. An Icy Rock. What the fuck does an Icy Rock do for this team? Genuinely, I'm waiting. I have no idea what an Icy Rock does for this team. Not a single fucking clue. Because it buffs the defense of Ice type attacks. But there are more special attacking types. 1, 2, 3, and 4 all specially attack for neutral damage into Iron Bundle. What is an Icy Rock doing for your team? If you do not want a Damp Rock, run Heavy Duty Boots. Icy Rock is the most worthless item. And keep in mind, the opposing team has a setter. It can just switch into that for free. No ifs, ands, or buts. It can just change the weather. fucking believable. But now we're in this situation, and let's just let it play out. A knockoff again. If you're going to stay in with your Venusaur into a Pelipper, click a grass move. Please? I'm begging you. Actually, factually begging you. Because Hurricane comes out and you die. However, into Venusaur. Hurricane literally kills it. No ifs, ands, or buts. This game ends if you click Hurricane. Now granted, Giga Drain does a lot of damage, but Knockoff, which I don't know why you are bringing, doesn't do a lot of damage. Your attack stat is also so much worse than your special attacking set. Just a baffling decision. And what do they click? Knockoff. Yeah, that's fine. You don't have another knockoff. You kind of need the disruption. I think it works. Also, fucking loaded dice. What is loaded dice doing to you that Black Sludge is not? Are you running Bullet Seed? Rock Blast? What is this set? This set does not do anything for your team. It does not make progress. It does not win games. Venusaur is a special attacker. There are no multi-hit special attacking moves. End of sentence. Just run something special attacking. Gliscor comes in on the double to Lanias. Yeah, I think that was a fine play by both. You have to be concerned about Hurricane. You have to be concerned about Giga Drain. Pretty fair for both players. Both moves I agree with. If you're Avium here, you should just be clicking Protect. If you are Jpeg here, you should be like Ice Beaming or like Scouting sets, Calm Minding even, and just trying to figure out like the lay of the land here and what their answer to your Lottie should be, which of course is the Goldenga, which has not been brought out yet. Unbelievable, but that's where we are. Water is Terrestrialize here. This, I think, is a good decision. I like this play a lot. Ice Beam, fine play. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, I see. I forgot Terrestrialize happens before the turn starts. Um, what was I going to say? Yeah, great play with the ice beam with the terrestrializing into water to stop the ice beam from killing. This is the mon you want to terrestrialize anyway. You don't want to terrestrialize your Goldengo. And so I think that's good. If you would click knockoff here, I think that is also good. However, you click Skitter Smack. And Skitter Smack was a phenomenal decision. I love the idea to click Skitter Smack here. Because clicking Skitter Smack on a Calm Mind reduces its Calm Mind and is super effective. And if they terrestrialize flying, which again, don't know why they are, it does neutral damage, but it means you can go. It means your their special attack is dropped, which gives you a better switch into either Goldengo or Raging Bolt if they terrestrialize, so you can force it out. Really excellent play. I really like this Skitter Smack here. Poison Heal goes up. Burn. Terrible Ice Beam, just absolutely terrible. Facade, fine play. I'm happy with that. So I think what you had to realize, pause, there we go. What you had to realize is that The Latias was choiced, but why, I don't know. But I'm sure that's damage that you could figure out. And that maybe at some point in time would have been helpful or useful knowledge. Again, you sacked it for no reason. It was really good into this team between like Dragon and Psychic coverage. You just threw it out for no reason. Whatever. Game moves on. Iron Bundle is in. It is going to click Freeze Dry here. Let's see if Gliscor clicks Protect. And again, we are also still looking for our Rock and Spike Setter on this team. Switches out into Torkoal, which I think is probably a bad play. You should probably be going to Goldango here, because again, we went over that calc. It does like 75 to 80 damage if they click Hydro Pump. Hydro Pump is never coming out because you're water, but if it's a freeze dry, it's 23%. That's 4 switches throughout the entire game, and you are now stuck with, an Iron Bundle behind a substitute, which your Torkoal cannot break and cannot beat. So that is a great play by Jpeg. As we go into the next turn, turn 14. Lefties, it's fine. Hydro Pump does 42. Yeah, so that's good damage. Let me just check that calc real quick. Bundle. Torkoal. Hydro Pump. Yes, no defense. And instead you're like 252. Perfect. Look at that. Good roll plus special defense actually, so it's probably like that. Yep, and that's the roll. So you just know that going forward. That's very good for your team. And you can see that freeze drying actually now does less, which again you should have been scouting for with a freeze dry on your earlier turns. Wrong thing. Body press comes out. Now I forget if flamethrower or so it's lava plume versus bundle or rapid spin with body press. Yeah, lava plume just did more damage, and I'm sure the same could be said about flamethrower. Just click flamethrower next time. Body press isn't doing any extra damage into any other mon here, and at least with flamethrower it burns, or lava plume it burns. And again, this set is fucking terrible because again you want rocks and spin and fire move, and you do not have rocks and spin and fire move. You have yawn, wisp, and body press. You've broken the sub. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Hydro Pump leftovers I think is fine if your opponent isn't rocks. If it was rocks, again, if they had set rocks even once with their Torkoal or Gliscor, this game is probably over because you can't click sub because you're now at 50% after rocks plus sub. But they're at 82% because they're leftovers and you just let them heal up. Whatever. Next turn. Pelipper comes in. This is a play that we've mentioned. Pelipper always enters on Torkoal, no matter what. Body press did no damage. Again, can't do anything. Now you click Roost here, or you can click Snowscape, which does absolutely fucking nothing. There is no reason to click Snowscape here. You are giving your opponent a turn. On the off chance that the last move is Sunny Day. But let's think here, what is more likely to happen? That your opponent is a Torkoal, which cannot heal and is afraid of Surf, and so is going to double to something like a Raging Bolt, which forces you out, or they're going to click Sunny Day and lose their Torkoal, their win con for nothing. clicking U-turn was a better play here, because if you would click U-turn, you can go into bundle, or you can go into Lando. You could go into Lando, actually, and click Earth Power and kill something, given that Goldango is an air balloon. Because everything else has been revealed. Yeah. A baffling click. Truly unbelievable. Unfucking believable. Am I allowed to say that I'm done with this replay at an hour and 35 minutes after you click Zap Cannon instead of Thunder or Thunderbolt or Volt Switch or Draco Meteor? And I know what the item is. The item's Blunder Policy, and your goal is to outspeed the faster rain threats, but it doesn't matter if it has even a modicum of special defense in either the Jirachi or the Lando, because you can't kill them. Zap Cannon is a fucking terrible bring here. Isn't the whole point of Zap Cannon that it's like a 100% chance to paralysis with a 50% chance to hit? And why did you stay in with your Pelipper? You just threw the game for nothing, because then you can't even go Barraskewda in the late game. If that hit, the game just ends and Avium wins. If that was just discharge, Avium wins the game on the spot. Because it goes Landorus, you click Draco Meteor, you don't. You live in Earth Power, yeah, you do, because you're a little bit bulky. You click Draco Meteor, it does like 3/4 to 90%. You die the next turn. You go Roaring Moon. You click Dragon Claw or Knockoff, and you win the game. Bundle comes into Revenge. You go Torkoal, get rid of the rain. And then after it dies, you go Goldango, and you spam Shadow Ball with your Venusaur in the back. Truly, honest to God, baffling from both players. This should not be an interaction that is happening. Why the ever-loving fuck is a Pelipper staying in on a Raging Bolt? And you ready for this? It clicks Blizzard and gets a crit. And we can tell by the damage that this is no special attack, and that this has a lot of bulk invested into it. So had you clicked Discharge or Thunderbolt, and then click Draco Meteor, because again, you live in Earth Power from full, you win the game. Congrats! But no, we're in this position where it got chunked by a Blizzard. Why are you Blizzard when it's a Goldenga? It's so baffling. Next turn. And you lose your Pelipper anyway. You lose your Pelipper anyway. You were given a free second lease on life, and you sacked your Pelipper anyway. Unfucking believable. Alright. So now that we know that it's Thunderclap, we know 3 of its moves. Last move has to be a dragon move. What do you go here when it's half health? You go Lando. Please go Lando. Thank you. So Landorus comes out and it just clicks Earth Power and it is going to kill something. Hopefully. Unless Goldango is Air Balloon. Sunny day. Good. Oh, it's faster because of the Blunder Policy. I had a complete brain fart there. Actually, if you're faster, you should just click Dragon Move, or you could have Weather Ball because it also gets Weather Ball. And if Ice is up, it just kills. So if this thing was running Weather Ball, because of course it would, your Lando would die. But no, that's not the world we live in. Sunny Day is up. And something that can revenge kill this, such as a Roaring Moon with a Choice Band, with nothing else that can set weather, by the way. Or, I mean, there's manual weather, but no Pelipper is coming in and getting rid of your sun now. And you send in Torkoal. What advantage does Torkoal give you here? Torkoal is weak to ground and slower than Lando. Let me repeat that. Weak to ground, slower than Lando. Did it sink in yet? Weak to ground, slower than Lando. What should you be doing here? Not going Torkoal. You should be going Roaring Moon and Dragon Dancing, or Roaring Moon and clicking Choice Band Outrage, because they have no more fucking switch-ins. They can't get rid of your sun. You just kill Lando and you win the game. That simple. You are up 5 months to 4. You can sack down. It's like when you're playing chess and your opponent blunders the bishop. It doesn't matter that you traded knight for knight but lost a pawn and whatever, because you're already up. Just start trading down and eventually you'll win. Solenda stays in and clicks Earth Power here, right? And it dies. Cool. What were you thinking? So Gliscor comes in here, which, as you can see, is not a Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon, by the way, with with Outrage, would just win the game. Still, you're still in a winning position here. It's just now 4-4. You didn't need to sack your Torkoal, but here we are. You could have even gone Ivysaur, and even though it's neutral, not super effective, you can click Growth and then Giga Drain because of Chlorophyll, and heal it all back. But of course, you have a physical fucking Venusaur. So Jpeg is winning. Rain Dance comes out on a Facade. Fucking Rain Dance is crazy here. It's not that crazy, actually. Because you want to click on like Sandsear Storm here, but you already revealed that you're Earth Power, not Sandsear. So it's really not that ridiculous, but it's also not that good. Facade, again, I think is a fine play. You just want to chip things. Jirachi's never coming in. Lando should just be attacking them. Yes, I agree with the Chicken Baconator here, that you are trolling, both of you. Because Rain did not need to come out, and Torkoal did not need to come out. So thank you, Chicken Baconator, for your thrilling commentary on this match. Because it is more not more exciting than the game at hand. It is more insightful than any move that has happened in this game. Thank you. Switches out. Doubled, yeah, that's fine. Freeze dry, it's bulky. I actually don't know this calc. Let me check it out. Bundle into Dragon Dance, freeze dry. So it's a little bit bulkier than expected. Maybe like some HP, but like just enough to outspeed. That's sort of the vibe that I get here. Again, you're slower than the bundle. So surely you're going to click something super effective here, right? Introducing draft to melee players. was a mistake. It just was. Let's look at the calc here. Iron Bundle, Roaring Moon, Body Press. As opposed to Knockoff. Body Press, Knockoff. Knockoff does double the amount of damage, and it hits. I don't think I can understand or explain away why this is such a bad move. Of course, we're at booster energy, so Blackberry, whatever. Just so baffling on every front. And again, outrage would have killed. Why? Why do you do this to me? Why do you make me do these hour 45-minute videos? This could have been like a fun video. We could have been laughing. No one is laughing here. Actually, I'm laughing. This is pretty fucking funny. It's bad Pokemon. Play good Pokemon. Heck, if you wanted to fucking do a fighting type move, let's go Roaring Moon. Fighting type moves, you get Brick Break would do more damage. Okay, that's actually in all fighting type moves, but you don't need a fighting type move. What are you fighting typing? Just a ridiculous fucking play. Click your stabs. Learn to click your goddamn stabs. Yeah, it dies here. That's funny. Haha, we laugh. Goldango comes in. Oh boy, what is Goldango going to click? Can I stop this recording, please? Notice how all game I've been mentioning that Goldango should be Balloon, and then Jirachi comes out with a Balloon and not a Goldango? This Jirachi did not need a Balloon. It's fine. It's a reasonable set. In fact, I'd probably say it's pretty good. Why is it not on the Goldango? And why is the Goldango Charge Beam? What the fuck is Charge Beam doing for your team? Seriously, what is it hitting? It is not hitting Latios. It is not hitting Lando. It is not hitting Jirachi. I mean, it hit Jirachi. We can see that. It's 15 damage. It is for Iron Bundle. But Iron Bundle dies to make it rain. So, and it's also for Pelipper. Why would a Pelipper ever switch in to Goldango? It's just not something that would happen, especially with a Terra Normal Barraskewda. Just terrible, terrible prep. It's like you didn't even look at your opposing team. So it hit, Charge Beam did hit, and you now get a +1 special attack. And the balloon is popped. Surely here you click Shadow Ball, right? Good. Fake tears. Just read. It's a meme that draft players don't read. Just read what happens when you click a move or test it, or ask me to help you test it. I can show you that fake tears would do nothing to a Goldango, and fake tears is actually probably a good bring, especially into the likes of Raging Bull and Venusaur. It's not good into Goldango. You should be clicking Fire Punch. Or like anything else. Life Orb. I didn't even mention the goddamn Life Orb. What a ridiculous, ridiculous thing to bring. Whatever, it's doing more damage. Good job. Landorus comes back out. Avium cooks Avium here. Oh, that's right, he named the Jirachi Avium. Cancel button broke, came back later. I don't get it. Yeah, so you just click Earth Power here and kill something. Venusaur comes in, and Sandstorm goes up. Sandstorm goes up. Why? Why? What is the point? What does Sandstorm do here? It doesn't do anything. I'm just gonna let it play out. It doesn't even if you had clicked Earth Power the first turn, it would have died to this Earth Power. Trailblaze is actually pretty interesting. I kind of like that, especially outside of Sun. That's not bad. Yeah, the Lando is scarfed. No, it's not scarfed. What the fuck is your Venusaur? Why is it so slow? Your Venusaur fucking sucks. Seriously. Why are you slower than a Lando at +1? Right, let me... Lando... Actually, let's even go... fuck, where's the minus speed? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong column. Is this your fucking set? Is this your fucking set? You couldn't run? 104 speed. And fucking keep in mind, you just simply outspeed in Sun. Would you think Sun would be up versus the Rain team so often that your Venusaur would just win with no speed? Ridiculous. Why bring Trailblaze if you're going to be Chlorophyll and outspeed? A baffling throw. Gliscor comes in, eats an Earth Power. It shouldn't be eating an Earth Power though, because you should be killing this thing. Iron Bundle comes in, clicks Freeze Dry twice, and wins the game. Remember, it's Life Orb, it's not going to be Recover. Fucking Steel Beam here is ridiculous. Make It Rain just kills, and then granted, you have to deal with Liquidation from Barraskewda. But that doesn't matter because, again, Goldango, bulky, Barraskewda. Excuse me, it does 72%. So, I don't know what the fuck you're thinking about. Aquajet, of course, cleans up. Doesn't matter. Terra Normal for good measure. Yeah. You should have clicked Giga Impact.